Unfortunately, we just keep sliding further and further down the overall ladder. We're into 2-6-2-9 there, unfortunately. And yeah, what we're looking at is 3 rounds to go. Obviously, we've got the 9 trades allotment. Thankfully, we're going to need all of them, unfortunately. I think a few people will be using some boost as we go along here. And the 962 wasn't all that it's cracked up to be, unfortunately, there. So really, the big thing here was just who you captained was the big one, and obviously Matty Short was the big winner in that one there. So if you're looking into some of these scorers for round 6, I got absolutely pumped in one of them there, 1342 from a guy Peter in that public league there. So incredible work from him in that one. I'm doing all right in a couple of in the seeded league there. I'm coming second, and in my own head-to-head league in my JBFA BBL competition there, coming 4th as well. So in with a shot at a couple of them. The Podmasters Cup, I'm just getting smashed each and every week at the moment, unfortunately, and a few of those guys did really well there. A bunch of 1100 pluses. Obviously Kai there with a 1219, a big bounce back from him. That's going to serve any of these guys who get 1100 plus. That's a big push up in the rankings. And then there's a few other guys like myself, Jake here, who was absolutely smashing it, unfortunately a 939, so loses plenty of ranks there. But Andrew, almost a 400 point win on that one. We'll just look at Andrew's score here, because that 1307 is absolutely incredible. So you'd imagine with a score that big that Laurie Evans was going to be in that team, and he sure was at 169, the captain of Matt Short. Well done for going, sort of seemed logical to stick with him, right? But then a little bit, illogical to go with him, just with how good the bowling lineup is of the Scorchers. And it did not matter. He scored runs both games. Bowled, one for 15 or one for 14 or whatever? No, sorry, one for 11 off his 3 to get the 25 point economy rate bonus as well. Incredible work. I even had Zach Crawley in there, who had a poor couple of games as well, but pretty much everyone there had the double game, except for Chowdhury, the 22, and obviously Walter there with the 86. So he'll be in a good position again to do well in this next round, in round 7 there. And we'll just go through a few of those game stats and guys that we might be looking to trade in before we look at my trades for the week as well. So Sixers, guys, I think you probably need to avoid all of them now. You could go for a little bit of a point of difference guy and a Tommy Curran after a low one, but higher break even now. Jack Edwards continues to do well, but he's so expensive now. It's wild that he's gotten to gun status, but he's done his job. Guys on the Heat we need to be looking at. So there's a few options here. You can go pretty cheap with Josh Brown. He got 63 last week. He's averaging 40 over the 4 or 5 games that he's played. You got Walter there. He's be a clear, close captaincy option. He's currently the captain in my side. I've actually brought Kuhneman in at this stage. It's going to be Kuhneman, or I do have enough money to go Bartlett as well. So just depend for me if I'm going to want to use that extra cash left over to try and get back to a Daniel Sams next week. That is the potential plan, but he's going to be very expensive after, again, another low break even. So yeah, those guys are all, that top 4 there, really good options. Swepson, pretty expensive now. So he could be, probably a little bit too much money for what you're likely going to get out of him, let's say. Spencer Johnson is a great purchase. Obviously, they're just a tick over 1,000 as well. I suppose instead of Kuhneman, I could go McSweeney as well. That's a potential option that I haven't thought of too deeply, and also Colin Munro. So all of those guys there, I'd say, are great options. I have Billings still on my side. I wouldn't grab him at all. I probably wouldn't grab Renshaw. I wouldn't grab Neza at this stage, but all the other guys, depending on how much cash you have available to use there, you could look at all of those guys as potential bring-ins as well. Have a look at their break-evens as well, if if that's going to help you potentially for next week with trying to get guys on that single game week. Something that I'm looking at and I'm very likely going to do, just because we have the single game week guys this week in Matt Short, Jamie Overton, and Maxwell. All 3 of those guys you likely want to be playing in your side. When most of us sort of have anywhere between 8 to 11 double game players, it doesn't leave too much room to loop. Obviously, you have to have multiple Renegades guys, or potentially Sammy Harper if he's not well, if he's injured. It sounds like he's not well. So I hope that he has a full recovery after getting hit in the head yesterday at training. So if you've got a few of those cheaper guys that you could move around, that aren't playing this week. And that's where I'm looking at potentially bringing in a real cheap, just a looper, the guy that's not going to be playing over the next 3 rounds there, just so that we can use an extra looper this week, and obviously next week as well, given there's no one on the bye in round 8. So strikers, yeah, you don't want to be trading any of them in. If you want to, you could trade out a Darcy Short, given he's coming off some decent games there. For sure, didn't go too well in that first one with the 7, but did well last night there and gets up to 124k, so he could be traded out. Guys like Alex Hales in my team there, Thunder. All of your stars guys can go except for Maxwell, so Tommy Rogers for me. Webster's and stuff you could keep if you want, but anyone else in that sort of 120, 140 bracket, the Imad Waseems could go out of your side. And how good's Chris Lynn been as well? So really for the Scorchers, guys that you might look to trade in, Lance Morris has gone up plenty in price there. He's up to a 179 now, which is pretty incredible after that couple of good games. So yeah, well done to him. Inglis, I think, is in top form there. You've obviously got Hardy that dropped a tiny bit of cash. You have Berendorf that's gone down a little bit as well. So a few of these guys here that you could look to target with Berendorf, with Richardson. The main issue with them is likely to be if one of them gets rested for a Matty Kelly. So it's very hard to tell which one of those guys it's going to be. I currently have Ty. He had a good first game, not as good in the second one as they got pumped. But any of those guys, they'll have very high break evens, especially those of Hardy, of Crawley for one, and then the bowlers in Berendorf and obviously Richardson as well. Lost a good amount of cash, but it could be a really good point of difference plays if they go nuts in a couple of those games and get both of those games there. So Laurie Evans, if he's up to 111k now, he's still fairly cheap. I'd go him over Ashton Agar, just in form at the moment. Batting at 5 instead of 6 is a little bit better as well. Whiteman, I think you can let him go through to the keeper, no pun intended. On that one. Connolly, he's one of those guys you probably want to try and loop this week, along with like a Chowdhury as well, if you're looking to bring in Chowdhury at that, or we'll jump into the Hurricanes now. He's definitely a solid pickup, but he's going up another 20k. So yeah, do you want to grab him? He only bowled the 2 overs on the on the weekend, last game. Guys like Ellis, guys like McDermott. McDermott's a little bit less of a pod. You could go for an Ellis. I'm looking at someone like Dooley, who's currently in my been brought into my side there. Tim David bowling the 1 over there and batting just a tiny bit. You're getting that maiden over with a wicket in that first one is what got him up to that good price. I'd probably avoid just with how low he's batting at 6 and maybe 1 over is annoying. Guys like Chris Jordan, Anderson could be sort of point of difference plays. I would go Chris Jordan over Anderson, and then Riley Meredith, if you want a bowl only guy there, could be a really, really good option as well. So I'm looking at a few of these type of guys over this round, whether it's Kuhneman, whether it's McSweeney, Bartlett, whether it's a Riley Meredith, these type of plays I'll be looking at for my side, and you guys should as well. I think Mac Wright has the biggest potential to be that boom guy, and then if Matt Wade is back, he has a little bit of risk, obviously, with him potentially being out with his back issues. So that's that. If you got one Renegades guy, that would be cool. If you don't at the moment, I think someone like Jordan Cox could be the guy. Just over 100k, did pretty well last game with his 57. You could slot in Fergus O'Neill there, who did really well. And I cannot believe that the season that he's had in Sheffield Shield and he still couldn't get a game in the T20s until they're out of the comp. Frustrating, that's for sure. And for Renegades fans, very, very frustrating season when you come in with plenty of hype. Not a lot of guys really doing well at all. And if you've owned Renegades players other than Fraser McGurk across this season, it's been a waste of time. So if you had 1 or 2 max, like Joe Clark was all right for a little bit, but not many of these guys did well apart from Sutherland in round 1 and Fraser McGurk. So yeah, a bit of a painful one. Rogers is starting to fall away, but hopefully you've traded him out from this point. And Quinton de Kock's been a very big disappointment, unfortunately, there for the Renegades, for himself obviously as well, and those who brought him in. So that's that with the Renegades, and then obviously that last game as well. It was incredible scores from Matt Short again. The wicket, as I said, the economy rate bonus, and then all these runs. And Chris Lynn's been incredible. A couple of good wickets from David Payne at the end for those that have him, and Henry Thornton bowling really, really well. Overton a low one there as well. So yeah, Laurie Evans coming out and get 29 off 21, I believe. So yeah, got that strike rate bonus as well. And yeah, all of these guys obviously a little bit low in this game because they didn't play very well. So if you load it up on the Scorchers, this is where bad things can happen. But it was a masterclass from the Shorts and obviously Chris Lynn to dominate this game. And I doubt that will happen again. Crawley just doesn't look himself, almost getting out first ball and stuff. So, but I think we're going to have to hold him for this one here and obviously hopefully a bounce back from those few guys there. So moving to my team now, just have a quick look. And yeah, that final trade is probably the big question mark as to what I do. If it is going to be Kuhnemann, if it's going to be McSweeney or any of the guys that we mentioned just before. I'm just looking for a little bit of a point of difference guy to try and be that sort of guy that could go big. But yeah, Kuhnemann's probably not that guy in hindsight. So I will look to a few other guys there as well before we get into it. But Will Salzman comes into my side. So dual position bat bowl, 42k, unlikely to play. And that last round, with the couple of Heat guys that I have, it could be it's either going to be 2 or 3, I'd say. Probably 2 by the time we get to round 9. I'll be able to use those guys who have the bye in the last round as loopers there, which would be cool, which would be easy. So I could trade in a looper or something like that anyway. If I didn't want to have 200k from Walter or whatever it's going to be after this round in there on the bench as well. So Salzman comes in for now. It just gives me a bit extra cash as well. And if I keep that sort of 72 in the bank, then I could look to get Daniel Sams next week from trading out Crawley and potentially a Hardy or something like that. We'll probably likely want him for the single round. But there's a few other guys like Ty and stuff that could be traded out as well. So Paddy Dooley comes in, Salzman comes in, and then one of those guys that I mentioned before comes in as well. And I'm looking to loop Chowdhury, given they played the second game in that one there. And then Billings I'll be looking to loop him as well, just because he doesn't have the perfect role, obviously, and he got 1 run and a couple of catches, thankfully. And then depends what happens. Yeah, obviously I don't think Harper's not going to be playing, so we could potentially use him as well for this week as a looper. So the main issue here is that he's just going to have to sit in that slot there, just because I don't want to not play Billings. I suppose I could just loop Billings in the emergency slot. No, that wouldn't work actually, because then I'd have to just straight up play Inglis. So yeah, it doesn't really matter anyway. Can't really do much with that position, given he plays in that first game, unfortunately, for Harper. So yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. Looping Billings, looping Chowdhury. If Chowdhury doesn't do well, I could slot in Connolly, which would be cool, given they played the third game. So that's where I'm at the moment with these guys. Let me know where you guys are at. I could move Salzman's into the starting side as well. If I did want Billings, but it's unlikely I'll want him at this stage, to be honest with you. That's where we're at with that one. If I move him over, I think I can move one of these guys down for Connolly, I believe. Yeah, so bring one of these guys down for Chowdhury or Connolly, and then put Salzman into the starting side and take Billings score. So I could get some looping done in there. Let's got the brain working overtime in that one there. But 2,600 overall, not looking great. Hopefully the last 3 rounds we can push ourselves back down a little bit. I think we got a pretty good side this week to do that. And then hopefully we still have Matt Short, Maxwell, Overton, Walter, guys like Inglis and Hardy, and then potentially can get Daniel Sams into our side next week now that we've spent down that 42k to get Salzman there as that looper, which would be cool. So that's my thinking at the moment. It seems much better. It took me all the way through 7 rounds to make some good decisions, but we got there eventually. See you guys. Thank you for being here.